हाय, गुड आफ्टरनून एवरीवन। 3 बजने वाले। आई होप सबका लंच हो गया होगा। नींद तो नहीं आ रही? डेफिनेटली। हाउस द जोश? आवाज नहीं आई। चलिए, हाय है तो लेट मी वेलकम यू ऑल। आप सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। यूटीआई म्यूचुअल फंड इन पार्टनरशिप विद सीएनबीसी आवाज प्रेजेंस उड़ान क्राइस्ट यूनिवर्सिटी में, यानी कि आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी में। उड़ान एक जर्नी है ग्रोथ की, फिर चाहे वो प्रोफेशनल हो, पर्सनल हो या फिर पर्पसफुल हो। आगे बढ़ने से पहले आई जस्ट वांट टू नो कि कितने लोग यहाँ पे हिंदी में कंफर्टेबल है, यानी कि समझ में आती है। समझ सबको आती है, राइट? तो जो समझना है तो एक बार आप हाथ ऊपर कर देना, मैं उसको ट्रांसलेट भी कर दूंगी इंग्लिश में। तो चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं। और आज यहाँ पे हम बात करने वाले हैं आइडियाज़ की। हम डेली बेसिस में सिलेबस के बारे में, पढ़ाई के बारे में ये बात तो करते रहते हैं। लाइफ में क्या करना है, करियर में क्या करना है, ये भी बात होती है। लेकिन आज हम उन आइडियाज़ की बात करने वाले हैं जो कि आपकी लाइफ और साथ में जो आपका करियर है उनको हो सकता है कि अच्छी और नई डायरेक्शन दे। क्राइस्ट यूनिवर्सिटी, यानी कि आप लोगों की तारीफ हो रही है, हमेशा से जाना जाता है अपनी होलिस्टिक एजुकेशन के लिए। यहाँ पे जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं, यानी कि आप लोग ही केवल नॉलेज नहीं लेते, बल्कि नॉलेज से बढ़ के भी काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें सीखते हैं। फिर चाहे वो लीडरशिप हो, वैल्यूज़ हो या फिर इंटीग्रिटी हो। और इस वंडरफुल इनिशिएटिव के लिए एक बड़ा थैंक यू टू आवर पार्टनर यूटीआई म्यूचुअल फंड। और इस टाइम पे केवल आप ही लोग यहाँ पे व्यूअर्स नहीं हैं, बल्कि जो ये इवेंट है हमारे यूट्यूब चैनल यानी कि सीएनबीसी आवाज़ के यूट्यूब चैनल पे भी लाइव है। तो वहाँ पे भी काफ़ी सारे व्यूअर्स जो हैं वो हमारे साथ जुड़ गए हैं। तो उन सभी का भी एक बार फिर से यूटीआई म्यूचुअल फंड इन पार्टनरशिप विद सीएनबीसी आवाज़ प्रेजेंस उड़ान क्राइस्ट यूनिवर्सिटी में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। तो चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं और एक नए सेशन की तरफ आगे बढ़ते हैं। क्राइस्ट यूनिवर्सिटी में हमने देखा है कि हर समय, और जो यूटीआई म्यूचुअल फंड है वो हर समय अपने यूथ को इंपायर करता है ताकि वो फिनेंशियली विजडम पा सके और साथ ही साथ कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ अपनी जो जर्नी है आगे की उसमें आगे बढ़ सके। तो चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं और शुरुआत करते हैं आज के पहले सेशन की। बातचीत तो हम डेली करते हैं, राइट? क्लासरूम में करते हैं, टीचर्स के साथ करते हैं, ओवर द कॉल करते हैं, सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म पे करते हैं। लेकिन यहाँ पे हम एक अलग बातचीत करने वाले हैं। हम बातचीत करने वाले हैं बिल्डिंग अ फ्यूचर दैट वर्क्स फॉर यू। और इस कॉन्वर्सेशन को लीड करेंगे सीएनबीसी आवाज से विपिन भट्ट, और उनके साथ स्टेज पर है एक विजनरी लीडर जो होम हेल्थ केयर इंडस्ट्री में रेवोल्यूशन लेके आए हैं, मिस्टर वैभव तिवारी, co-founder and CEO पोचिया मेडिकल। So let's welcome them both with big round of applause.
Thank you, Kanchan, for this wonderful, joshful speech. And welcome all of you. It's very nice to see all of you. It's always very nice to see the students because ये हमको हमारा पुराना टाइम याद दिला देता है। वैसे मेरे बाल थोड़े ज़्यादा ग्रे हो गए हैं, लेकिन मैं उतना पुराना नहीं हुआ हूँ अभी। So आप लोगों के बीच आके ऐसा ही लग रहा है, and sir for you also, आप लोगों के बीच आके ऐसे ही लग रहा है कि हमारे पुराने दिन आ गए हैं। तो लेट्स स्टार्ट। जैसा कंचन ने कहा कि आज हम थोड़ी रिसोर्सफुल बातचीत करेंगे। ऑल ऑफ यू आर इन द फाइनल ईयर और मे बी द सेकेंड ईयर ऑफ योर ग्रेजुएशन और मे बी द पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन, लेकिन यहाँ से 1-2 साल बाद आप सबको अपने करियर स्टार्ट करने हैं। करियर का मतलब क्या हुआ? आप पैसे कमाएंगे, अपने ड्रीम्स पूरे करेंगे, अपनी लाइफ को बिल्ड करेंगे। ये एक मोटी डेफिनेशन हो सकती है, बट इसके अलावा भी कुछ है। आप में से बहुत सारे लोग कुछ अलग करना चाहते होंगे, कुछ नया करना चाहते होंगे, लीडर बनना चाहते होंगे। तो आज थोड़ी सी वैसी ही बात करेंगे और उसके लिए आई थिंक वैभव सर से बेहतर कोई हो नहीं सकता। तो वैभव सर, टू स्टार्ट विथ, पोटिया शायद इस रूम में काफ़ी लोगों को पता भी हो ना भी हो, इट्स अ डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ अ सर्विस। तो पहले मैं थोड़ा सा पोटिया के बारे में जानना चाहूँगा और साथ में हल्का सा आपका भी परिचय।
So I'll start with Portia. Portia is India's leading outside the hospital healthcare services company. So when I say outside the hospital, in India you have very, very good healthcare services as far as the hospitals are concerned. जब आपको really surgery की ज़रूरत पड़ती है, you need the real tertiary care, आप hospital जाते हैं. And Indian hospital system is very, very strong with some of the well-known names. And Indian medical tourism also is growing significantly, right? So you see it both ways. So Indian medical system from hospital has been very strong. But for a large number of patients, when they discharge from the hospital, a big need remains to be taken care of at home. What we call rehabilitation, what we call continuum of care. And that is something which is a very big need, has been there in this country for long, but was always done by unorganized segment. So Portia started around 12 years back, and the whole idea was to look at outside the hospital healthcare requirements and take care of those. And जो world class healthcare hospitals provide कर रहे हैं इंडिया में, क्या वही level का healthcare services हम patients को provide कर सकते हैं उनके घर में? And that's what Portia is all about. So आपको घर में as complicated as setting up an ICU at home. So a lot of patients either end of life care or for the rehabilitation, they may discharge from the hospital ICU, will set up a ICU at home for you with full ventilator, bed, doctor, nurses, everything. As complicated as that to as simple as picking up a blood sample if somebody wants a health check. The full range of services, nursing, physiotherapy, medical equipment, every healthcare service which can be done at home is what we provide. We are present in 132 cities now across the country. Work with almost all the large hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, corporate insurance companies. And this is an area which we in some ways has got organized after we started around 12 years back.
So anybody can tell me why I asked this particular question to Vaibhav, that what he is doing or what his company is doing? Anybody in this room can tell? Why ask this question to start the conversation with? Okay. So the idea is what Vaibhav or his company do or doing is they are providing a solution to a problem. And this is what we all have to do. आप जो भी यहाँ से निकलेंगे, एक बात समझिए, whether you are doing your own business, since we are in Bengaluru and which is a city capital of, startup capital of India known as, तो आपको एक solution provide करना है, whether it's a job आपको कोई तब देगा, अच्छा job जिसके लिए हम सब dream करते हैं, जब आप उनको कोई value देंगे. आप अपना कुछ entrepreneurial journey start करते हैं तो it's not like कि वो ये कर रहा है तो मैं भी ये start कर दूं. If you have a solution to any problem, there is a gap in the medical facilities which Vaibhav or his company is trying to fulfill. अभी हम और भी उनसे बातें करेंगे. But the point which should be noted here is that you need to provide a solution to a particular problem, and here what makes him successful or any other startup which you are looking at which is successful nowadays is providing some sort of the solution. Now going back to you, Vaibhav, you are an IIM Calcutta graduate. So starting from your early days, do you think that, do you have any kind of a clarity in your vision that I want to do this, I want to do a job, I want to join a multinational company, or I just want to do my something own? Because in those days, I think startup word is not there.
Correct. So I'll just go a little bit far behind. I went to IIT Kanpur for my engineering, and that time everybody wanted to become a civil servant. I was in Kanpur, so everybody wanted to become a civil servant at that time. And of course, the journey took me wherever it took me after that, and I did my MBA. And at that time, of course, entrepreneurship was just starting. Entrepreneurship was business at that time. It was not entrepreneurship. Startups were not seen the way startups are seen today. And we had our first startup, which was a BPO company. And then, of course, my journey has continued from there in multiple different startups. Portia is the third one, which I am building right now. And I think many times you will not know the next step of the journey because market changes very fast. Situation changes very fast. I mean, I always talk of 90s, at least when we were growing up. Satellite TV was a big thing. Then internet became a big thing. Mobile phone became a big thing. Today, everything has got so personalized now. So another 5 years, how life will be, you will not know. But basic fundamentals of how to handle life, how to handle situations, how to provide solutions, as you are saying, that is something which you learn in your college. You get the structure on how to think and how to solve problems. I think that's what a good college gives you. That's what a Christ college gives to you guys. And that's something which you should, every problem you see in your current scenario, you should try to solve it. What the biggest thing you will learn on how to solve problems, how to give solutions. That's something which is very important. Problems will change because market will change, but as I say, macroeconomic situation will change, which you have no control on, correct? Today there are no tariffs, tomorrow there are tariffs, day after tomorrow something else is there. Situation will continuously change. What do you do with that is to think of this as a problem and always think of how to provide a solution for that.
Right. So the theme is like building a future that works for you. So what exactly works for you?
I think what works for us is basically, for me personally what works, I think what has worked from day one to now, I always have this formula which I believe in, that whatever happens, you get up, you dress up and you show up. Because life will keep giving you different challenges. If you are ready and if you continuously show up, you'll always find answers. Problem with many of us is that we always think, okay, this will not get solved, how will I handle this? I've never done this kind of situation. Most of the things which you are handling today, your parents and grandparents wouldn't have thought of that happening, right? But today are handling it so easily. Today you can do GPay and use mobile so easily. Your parents may not be able to do, and grandparents for sure will struggle. Which is like a, as I say, a baएं हाथ का खेल है for you actually. So situations will change, and you should always make sure that you are ready to face the challenges. That's something which has worked for me personally. For us as an organization, I think continuously thinking of what our patients want, what problem we can solve for you, is something which has worked very well. We provide, as I said, a complete range of services for the patients at home, and most of those needs were identified in patient homes. When we are providing them some service, we realize, okay, he needs something more also. When we started physiotherapy, we realized patients will require medical equipment also. When they are recovering, a lot of medical equipment is required at home, which we thought, can we do it at home? So a lot of needs for us got fulfilled or got identified by talking to our patients, by talking to our customers regularly. So I would say being close to the ground, being close to the customers has been the one thing which has worked very well for us.
So, sure. But the success is not easy, sir. There are a lot of setbacks, a lot of roadblocks, a lot of issues when you are trying to do something new. So how in your journey you handle all this kind of a thing, many a time I think got a failure also. This is not just the first startup you are doing. आपने कैसे ये सारी चीज़ें हैंडल की? और जब एक सेटबैक लगता है, मतलब स्टूडेंट्स हैं यहाँ पर, तो घर में बड़ी उम्मीदें रहती हैं कि ये करो, वैसा करो, या ये बनना है या वो बनना है. कोशिश भी सब करते हैं, लेकिन सक्सेस सबको ओवरनाइट मिल जाए ये ज़रूरी नहीं है. तो हाउ टू हैंडल दैट फेलियर पार्ट ऑफ दैट?
I think failure part, the biggest thing is that failure or perceived failure, or when a very challenging situation comes, it's always good to take a step back and reassess the situation. And I can give you an example for us. When COVID happened in 2020 beginning, right? At that time, first COVID, the complete lockdown was there. And our services happen in your home. Now, if all the societies have closed, there's nobody from outside who can come, then how do we do what we have been doing? Because the patients are not calling us anymore because everything is locked down. All the discretionary health spends were stopped that time. So what do we do? At the time, it's what we call a black swan event, right? We have to completely pivot the business. It's basically that time you face a situation where you say, okay, it's a do or die situation. If you don't change now, there won't be any company 6 months from now, right? So complete pivot happened at that time, saying how do we handle situation, what innovation you can do. When you are faced with challenges, back to the wall, तभी आपको idea आता है कि और करना क्या है. And I tell you, that's what happened in COVID. We worked with different state governments because we were still going to the office because we are healthcare services, essential services, but a lot of everything was closed in wave 1, right? Then we started working with government and said, can we provide COVID support at home, what we called COVID home isolation. And then we worked with multiple state governments across the country. We served over 5 lakh patients in their homes in COVID isolation, home isolation, where our healthcare workers and doctors were continuously doing teleconsult with them and managing their health and making sure everybody is recovering. If they're not recovering, we worked with government to take them to hospitals. Now, something like that, in a normal scenario, we wouldn't have thought of. The pivot of that nature, we couldn't have thought about. When we are faced with this kind of enormous situation, that's something which we did. So that's how you innovate. That's how you say, okay, first you don't run away. You face the challenge, correct? But you always take a step back, think on how to handle it, because that's when your brain will work better. And then, of course, you go back and deal with it. And as I first said, if you show up, you'll continuously find answers, because most of the problems, as they say, are not rocket science problems, right? These are easy life problems. Not easy, but they're still life problems which you can handle. And that's something which has happened for us as a company. And that's a rule which has worked for me as an individual also.
अच्छा वैभव, एक चीज और ये मेरा पर्सनल क्वेश्चन भी कि इट्स समटाइम वेरी इजी टू आइडेंटिफाई अ प्रॉब्लम कि ओके ये प्रॉब्लम है, एंड समटाइम इज आल्सो इजी टू फाइंड अ सॉल्यूशन एज वेल कि अच्छा इसको ऐसे करते हैं, बट द एग्जीक्यूशन पार्ट इज अ रियल चैलेंज. हाउ टू डील विद दैट?
I think that is something which you learn as you grow, and probably you learn in college also. I think that's why now, and even in our times, a lot of projects get done with a team. Then you realize that a team should be comprising of people who have complementary skills. We always say, right, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're on the wrong room. Correct? You should have smarter people than you around you, right? Because end of the day, as you grow up in life, and first, I mean, that's how we all have been brought up, saying that we have to come first, right? We have to come first, right? We have always this, we have to come first, we have to go to the best college, we have to do everything best, we have to win 1, 2, 3 only, right? But fact is, when you come in real life and solve real problems, as you grow up, you realize you never solve anything alone. Even today, you don't solve anything alone. You think you got into a tier 1 college and sitting here and doing MBA, your parents, your relatives, somebody else in your family, there's so many people who worked for you to be successful. You just don't see it like that because the culture is saying, okay, he's successful, she's successful. But fact is, there's always an army of people behind you for you to be successful. And same principle applies when you go and solve problems in real life. Then the team becomes very important. What kind of people you have around you, and how do you make sure you continuously have people who are willing to fight, who are willing to be there and say, okay, let us find solution together, and who have complementary skills. So every time, idea to execution, and good execution will happen if you have a very good team which has all complementary skills. So whether you're selecting a project team today or selecting a project team when you're in your first job or second job or third job, the main thing is basically to look at people who can work along with you to solve the problem, and hopefully many of them are smarter than you. I always say this, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Okay. So, अच्छा एक चीज मैं पूछना चाहूँगा. So, how many of you in this room want to do their something own, like to do a startup? How many of you thinking of doing a startup? Only few hands. And how many of you want to do a job? Most of the hands.
And how many want them to do a job in a startup, we should ask actually.
Now, this is very important thing. When I asked, we are sitting in Bengaluru, and I think this is a city which inspire a lot. बड़े-बड़े startups सब यहीं से आए हैं. लेकिन only few hands when I ask for a startup thing, and there are a lot many hands when I ask for a job thing. What is this phenomena? मतलब, what is the mindset behind these answers?
So the first thing is security actually. I guess people always look for security first and say, okay, and many of them might have taken loan for their post-grad, or they was wondering, I have to pay the EMI also. So people look at that. I always tell this example. My first job was in Citibank after MBA. And when I left it to do a first startup, my father said, अरे इतनी अच्छी नौकरी लगी है, Citibank की नौकरी छोड़ कोई company शुरू करने जाता है क्या? So I think that security thing is very ingrained in us, and that's how probably a lot of people look at that. But in a city like Bangalore, I think that's why I said the third category. There are enough and more people, if they do a job, they will go probably work for Flipkart, they will work for Amazon, they will work for Google, they work for a lot of Indian companies also, which have just recently, Ola and Uber or whosoever else. I mean, there's so many companies in India, in Bangalore, we started from Bangalore, which are startups, even today in the way they operate, in their culture and everything. Today the job looks the same where they work. If you ask them how many of them want to work in public sector, their hands will be very different, because that's probably what has shifted over a period of time. But I think risk-taking, calculated risk-taking is something which we all should look for actually, because taking risk, thought through risk is important in life, and that's what you will do actually always.
I think taking risk is really important. Be fearless. डरने की क्या बात है? आप फेल ही तो होंगे, लेकिन I think failure से बड़ा टीचर कहने के लिए बहुत आसान बात है, आपने हमेशा सुनी होगी, लेकिन एक्चुअली में शायद आप महसूस करेंगे जब अपनी प्रोफेशनल लाइफ में आप बढ़ेंगे कि जो आपके लिए सबसे कठिन समय है, सबसे खराब समय है, वही सबसे अच्छा समय आपके लिए है, क्योंकि वो आपको जितना सिखाता है उतना कोई और नहीं सिखा सकता. One more question, sir. Is success a permanent thing? I'm asking this question because there are many names in India now, at least unicorns हैं बहुत सारे, मैं उनके particular नाम नहीं लूँगा, जो अपने peak पर जाकर who are like the flag bearers in our country startup के लिए, लेकिन इस समय खत्म हो चुके हैं, they are now bankrupt. तो क्या इस लेवल पर भी जाके गलती हो सकती है?
See, I think there are two, three things to this. One is that the success formula keeps changing. I always say that when the market changes, when the macroeconomic situation changes, the success formula changes, right? So I mean, if 30 years back, we used to fax, right? My first sales order I faxed to the head office, right? correct? That's how we used to operate in my first job, right? And now, of course, life is very different. So the way you operate, okay, has to be continuously riding the next wave. How to leverage next wave for you. If you are stuck in how you are operating today, then of course you'll not be very successful in life, at least worldly wise. But just saying, okay, what changes are coming? Am I ready to handle those changes? Okay, that is something which is very important. So the model, as I said, structure of handling problems is very important. Problems will change for you. And the same thing happens when you go at any stage in an organization, you'll continuously evolve, market keeps changing. If you don't ride the wave, today I'm telling you for the same thing for us, today with AI coming into play, so much technology coming into play, the way we have been doing this service has to completely change. And today when we work in our company, I tell my teams, if you are to start this company today, if you start Portia today, how will you start? Is what you have to think. You can't think, oh, this is how we have been doing all along. Because if you think like that, you will become extinct in next whatever 5 years, 10 years. Because somebody new today will think very differently of doing it. You'll think of how to do it tech-led. When we started 12 years back, it was people-led. Today, can I do a lot more tech-led? That is something which changes. So I would say you have to keep up with times. That's something which is very important. So
you have to keep learning each and every day.
Keep learning, yes.
Yeah. At last, any word of advice? आपने काफी कुछ बता दिया वैसे तो सारी बातें हो गई. But any word from your side?
I have two advices for all of you. One is that you should always do what you enjoy. I think the societal pressure and everything else, and that's good you are on that side. I wish I was on that side, I'm on this side, and I wish somebody told me at that time. Saying that, okay, you do what you really enjoy, because you'll be successful in what you enjoy doing. Correct? We always say this, Tendulkar was a good bowler, but he was a great batsman. If he only focused all his skills in bowling, he wouldn't have been so well known, correct? You always play by your strengths, correct? And do what you really, really enjoy. And as he said, be fearless. What can go wrong for somebody like you? What really can go wrong? What will go wrong will be a temporary setback only. So if you don't really push your boundaries and test yourself, how will you ever know where you can go? So do what you enjoy and push your boundaries and take risk. I think those are the things which I would say are my giveaways to all of you.
Thank you, Vaibhav. This is indeed a word of advice, and I think everybody will benefit from these things. And all the best for all of you. We have more sessions like this going forward, but thank you, Vaibhav.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
आपने अभी एक कोट यहाँ पे बोला कि आपको डेली उठना है, यानी कि यू हैव टू गेट अप, ड्रेस अप एंड शो अप. कहने को ये केवल 3 वर्ड है, लेकिन अगर इसको हम अपनी डेली लाइफ में फॉलो करते हैं तो एक काफ़ी बड़ी जो हमारी जर्नी है उसको सक्सेसफुल बनाने में काफ़ी हेल्पफुल आता है. इसी से मुझे एक डायलॉग है, और वो काफ़ी फेमस मूवी का डायलॉग है, दैट इज़ 3 इडियट्स, कि सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो, एक्सीलेंस का पीछा करो. जो सक्सेस है वो आपके पीछे झक मार के आएगी. लेट मी ट्रांसलेट इट फॉर यू, अगर किसी को इसका मतलब समझ नहीं आया. डोंट चेज सक्सेस, चेज एक्सीलेंस. सक्सेस विल कम चेजिंग यू. तो यही चीज़ है कि जो भी आपकी चीज़ है. इससे एक चीज़ मैं और इसमें ऐड ऑन करना चाहूँगी. कल जब विपिन जी और मैं मुंबई से बेंगलुरु आ रहे थे तो हमारी ऐसी कुछ कॉन्वर्सेशन चल रही थी. तो एक काफ़ी अच्छी बात उन्होंने मुझे कही कि एक पत्ता है और एक दूसरा पत्ता भी है उसके साथ, और एक पत्ता जो है वो वाटर के फ्लो के साथ चल रहा है, और जब वो चल रहा है तो उसको काफ़ी मज़ा आ रहा है कि जहाँ पानी उसको लेके जा रहा है वो चल रहा है. लेकिन जो दूसरा पत्ता है वो स्ट्रगल कर रहा है कि जिस तरफ पानी का बहाव जा रहा है, यानी कि जिस तरफ वाटर का फ्लो जा रहा है उसके अगेंस्ट चलने में, लेकिन फिर भी उसके मज़ा आ रहा है. तो मज़ा आना इम्पॉर्टेंट है, चाहे आप अपनी पेरेंट्स की मर्ज़ी से कोई करियर चूज़ कर रहे हो या फिर अपनी मर्ज़ी से करियर चूज़ कर रहे हो, लेकिन उसमें आपको मज़ा आना चाहिए, उसमें आपका पूरा का पूरा जो पोटेंशियल है वो लगना चाहिए, उसमें आपकी जो एक्सीलेंस है वो आनी चाहिए. तो चलिए, तो बातें हो गई और काफ़ी सारा ज्ञान मैंने भी दे दिया, लेकिन आगे बढ़ते हैं. और काफ़ी सारी और भी चीज़ें हैं जो यहाँ पे लाइनअप में लगी हुई है. और अब हम चलते हैं एक ऐसे टॉपिक की तरफ जो एक हर सपने की फाउंडेशन होती है. एनी गेसेस? ऐसा क्या टॉपिक है जो हर सपने की फाउंडेशन होती है? नो. फिनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंस. कितने लोग इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हैं? और योलो ट्रेंड को कौन फॉलो करता है? कोई नहीं करता. काफी अच्छे बच्चे. चलो यूरो ट्रेंड को तो कोई फॉलो नहीं करता एंड इट्स गुड कि अभी से आप में वो फिनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंस को लेके इन्वेस्टमेंट की जागरूकता है. तो चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं और यूटीआई म्यूचुअल फंड के एक्सपर्ट्स अब हमें बताने वाले हैं कि किस तरीके से छोटी और जो साथ ही साथ कंसिस्टेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट है उससे हम अपनी लॉन्ग टर्म ग्रोथ को बिल्ड कर सकते हैं. इसी को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए प्लीज वेलकम मिस्टर सिद्धार्थ दास, जोनल हेड यूटीआई म्यूचुअल फंड. प्लीज वेलकम विद बिग राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज.
Audio, please. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Kanchan, and thank you for having us here. It's always wonderful to be present with young minds. You know, it also gives us a lot of energy, as Mr. Vaibhav said, and as Vipin said, that it gives us, memories of our college days. So thank you for having us here. So I think Udaan is a very, very pertinent topic that we have. Udaan, all of you are ready to take flight, which means you are ready to go for the Udaan. And the topic is Tayari Kal Ki, which is preparation for tomorrow, right? And as Kanchan said, what is it that we need to do? One of the life skills that we need to have for our future, which is that of financial independence, right? So one of the main objectives of all of us working, all of us spending time, energy to work either independently or in jobs or in startups or whatever the case may. I think half of the presentation is done when you know the meaning of the presentation. But yes, this is a simplistic acronym for financial independence, retire early. But what is important is, apart from the acronym, what is important is the steps that we need to do. जो steps हमें लेने हैं इसमें successful होने के लिए, correct? Because those executable steps are the most important part to reach your goal, okay? So all of you are currently in your final years or maybe come into the first years, and all of you are getting educated, and probably this is the last stage of your education, which will lead to what? What is it that your education is going to lead you to? Yeah, that is the objective, one of the objectives, yeah. Education empowers you and gives you means. Means for what? Means maybe to follow your passion. To choose a profession. Okay, it may be to start a business, and prepares you for employment, right? Your education is preparing you, giving you the means to follow a passion, do a profession, start up a business, and be ready for employment. Now, what are the passions you may have? You may want to get into photography, you may want to get into sports, you may want to get into arts like fashion designing. You may choose to become an architect, a doctor, or a lawyer. You may want to get employment in like what we do. We are all marketing sales professionals. Most of us will be getting into marketing and sales. We have finance professionals. I have a colleague of mine who's a finance professional. You can either start up a business, your own startups, you can do your own trade, or you can join your family-owned business. So this is the basis of your education, should take you to one or more of these particular, segments. All of this activity that you're going to do is to create a reservoir, a financial reservoir. You want to create a corpus for yourself so that in future, as this reservoir sort of like you have a dam and the water flows, you have cash flows to meet your requirements, to meet your daily, monthly, annual expenses. That reservoir has to be such that it is able to meet those requirements in a very efficient and effective manner, right? So that is the objective of the financial independence retire early concept, the FIRE concept, okay? so that you are able to create a reservoir for yourself so that future cash flows that you may require is adequately taken care of. So if you look at wealth creation, now wealth creation is actually a very simple, it's a very simple process. You have to invest a sum of money, you have to let it stay for a period of time, you have to let that money work for you. Yeah, so in the meantime, this can also be sorted, I guess.
I think there is some technical glitch.
Yeah, just wait for it to.
अभी काफी सारे ऑप्शंस आपने यहाँ पे दिए कि फैमिली ओन बिजनेस हो, चाहे स्टार्टअप हो, चाहे ट्रेड हो, तो कितने यहाँ से फैमिली ओन बिजनेस में जाना चाहते हैं आगे?
Okay.
1, 2,
2, 3 maybe, yeah.
4. स्टार्टअप के लिए तो ऑलरेडी बता दिया था, और आई गेस 5 से 6 हैंड रेज हमने देखे थे, और जॉब के लिए यहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा हैंड रेज हमने देखे थे, और जिसके ऊपर विपिन जी ने इससे पहले वाले जो सेशन थी उसमें डिस्कशन भी की थी कि कितने लोग जॉब में जाना चाहते हैं. आई थिंक कि इस टाइम पे आपको भी क्लैरिटी मिल गई होगी कि जो आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन है वहाँ पे कितने लोग ट्रेड करना चाहते हैं, कितने लोग फैमिली ओन बिजनेस में जाना चाहते हैं, और कितने लोग जॉब में जाना चाहते हैं. तो मूविंग फॉरवर्ड, अगर ये प्रेजेंटेशन चल गई तो
Yes, it started.
Yeah.
That's good.
प्लीज कैरी ऑन.
Yeah, so as I was saying, this is the last slide that we were in when the technical glitch happened. So we have to, it's a very, actually a wealth creation is a very, very simple process. You have to invest a small amount of money. You have to let it stay invested for a period of time. You let the money work for you, what is called compounding. All of you have heard about this term called compounding. Compounding is essentially that you have to let that money, that corpus work for you over a period of time, and you get wealth creation. Okay? However, what is important is what I mentioned at the start of the presentation. What we lack is the discipline. What we lack is that we need to be regular, we need to be long term, and we need to stick to that investment over a period of time, let that money work for you, compound itself, and create the value, wealth for you. So you just have a look at this. This is 15,000 bucks, 15,000 rupees a month. You are investing for 25 years. As an illustrative example, even if we take a 12% compounding per annum, this yields a total corpus of about 2.8 crores for you. It's as simple as that, right? But the problem is how many people have the discipline to invest every month for a long period of time and let it be, right? So that's where all of us need to get this thing in the essence that financial investments, creating wealth is actually a very long-term process, and it requires a large degree of discipline with each one of us. So the first step is begin as early as possible. Second is the power of compounding, which is to allow the money to work for you. And third is please ensure that you take care of the inflation, right? Because inflation is something which takes away from the corpus that you are generating, from the returns that you are generating. So inflation is also something that one needs to be very careful about, because inflation eats away on the accumulated reserves that you are generating. Begin early. I think it's self-explanatory, but just to illustrate what begin early means, if we have a young child who is born and just started, and we look at 60 years as the age when most of us would probably try and hang up their boots and try and get into retirement. If you look at this period of 60 years and you look at investment of only 10,000 rupees a month, at a 9% compounding, This adds up to 28 crores. Simple. You start when somebody was born, you invest 10,000 rupees per month, stay invested for 60 years, at a 9% illustrative compounding rate, you generate a corpus of about 28 crores. Any guesses if this 9% becomes 12%? Simple, 3% increase in the compounding rate for a period of 60 years. Any guesses what the corpus becomes? 80 to 85 crores. ये बन जाता है 130 crore, 129 crores. Simple. Just start as early as possible, stay for as long, and you will generate a huge corpus of wealth for yourself. Let me come to the other part of it. What is the lost compounding opportunity? There we started at what age? We started at 0. Today we are starting at 30 years, right? And we again look at 60 as the age where most of us would want to retire and try and create a corpus. And again, the investment amount is only 10,000 rupees per month. Here, at 9%, the corpus is 1.83 crores. What was the corpus when it was 60 years? Right? So just see the difference. And if you look at 12% compounding, the corpus goes up to 3.5 crores. So just fathom the difference that time brings to your investment. That is very, very, very critical to understand, because this time period creates a difference in the corpus which is significantly higher than what you would have had you spent less time. Okay, and with the same investment amount. And just to reinforce the fact that this 12% compounded rate is not something which is over the top. If you look at the markets from last 50 years, from 1980, right? So last 45 years, the market has given a compounded average annual growth rate of 15.01%, with all these kind of crises coming in, the latest being the COVID crisis in 2021. All of you would be post 2000 born? Yeah? Right. So just imagine, and if you look at the data which is there for the last 45 years, it's a phenomenal rate of growth that the market, simple market, okay? So 12% is not a figure which is overtly high in terms of returns from the markets that we can expect. Cost of delay, again, a retirement corpus, supposing we are looking at a retirement corpus of 1.5 crores at about 60 years, and we keep the illustrated compounding rate at 12%. If you start at 25 years, you need to have an investment of about 2,300 rupees per month to get to 1.5 crores by the time you are 60. Every 5 years you increase, your investment amount roughly doubles to get to the same corpus. To get to the same corpus of 1.5 crores by 60, your investment amount doubles. So somebody starting at the age of 25, while he or she will be investing about 2,309 rupees, when he or she is at about 40 years, 15 years later, the invest amount shoots up to about 15,000 rupees, right? So there cannot be more reinforcement to the fact that we need to start as early as possible. Delay of every 5 years almost doubles your SIP amount to reach the same figure. Another illustration of the cost of delay. Now you have a gentleman by the name of Ramesh who starts an SIP at the age of 25, does a monthly SIP of 15,000, assumed rate of return is about 10%, investment till about 60 years, which is 35 years from now. Total investment amount is 63 lakhs. He accumulates about 9.6 crores of corpus by the time he superannuates. You have Mr. Suresh. he does the same amounts, but he starts 20 years later. 20 साल बाद उसने start किया. 20 साल में his corpus from 9.6 crores comes down to 75 lakhs. So it is minus 9 crores, minus 8.9 crores, minus 9 crores, just a 20 years gap. Just a 20 years gap with the same EMI amount, the same investment amount and the same compounding rate. So the corpus goes down by minus 9 crores. Again, if Suresh says, okay, by 45 I've started earning much more and I will invest not 15,000 but I'll invest 35,000 rupees. With the same, still his corpus comes down to 1.75 crores. If his final investment is the same amount, he wants to invest the same amount, his corpus is still minus almost 8 crores. So again reinforcing the fact that one has to start as early in your investment journey to create that corpus at the time of superannuation. Again, another concept in this is called step up. Okay, as we just saw that a lot of you would be wanting to get into jobs, even those who are wanting to get into businesses. Every year the objective is that there should be incremental income. There should be increase in salary, there should be increase in turnover, and there should be increase in profits, which generates incremental income for us, right? Step up is a concept wherein your investment amount can also be increased every year or even every month, but you know, typically in a year you get your increments. So you have a lady by the name of Alicia who started at about age 20 with a SIP amount of 5,000. The corpus at a 12% compounding at 40, which is another 20 years, is about 46 lakhs. To illustrate the second, Sharan starts 5 years later, delays of 5 years, his corpus is reduced to almost half. You have Vaibhav, he starts even 5 years later but doubles the amount, right? Despite doubling the amount from Alicia, still his corpus is less than half of Alicia, right? He starts 10 years later. However, we have Ishita who starts at 20, does 5,000 SIP plus an annual increase of 1,000 rupees only, stays invested till the next 10 years, next 20 years, the corpus shoots up to 1 crore. Just 1,000 rupees every year increment for the next 20 years. The corpus shoots up from 46 lakhs to 1 crore. So this is called step up investing. So you have basic SIP, all of you are aware of the SIP thing. Basic SIP, you have something called step up SIP. Please ensure that this concept of step up in SIP, a very powerful concept to build up your investment corpus, is implemented. Power of compounding, again a famous quote by Mr. Albert Einstein, is compounded interest is the 8th wonder of the world. One who understands it earns it, one who doesn't loses it, okay, pays for it. So let's play a game. Okay, now supposing you ask your parent for a pocket money of 1 rupee every day, 1 rupee for the first day, and double that amount every day for 1 month. Okay, got it? Everybody clear? 1 rupee the first day of the month, double that amount next day and next day onwards for 1 month. What is the corpus? Broad guess what you will get at the end of the month. Broad guess. Start with 1 rupee. How many in 31 days? What amount in 31 days? 10 lakhs? 1 crore? 10 crores? Any guesses? Let's make this interesting. 20 crores? Sorry? 10 lakhs. I mean, these are not choices. Huh? These are not the MCQ choices. I'm just giving you a figure. So you don't have to choose between this. Any guesses? 1 rupee every day, double it for the month. Double it every day for a month. Yeah? 20 crores, 30 crores or more? One more option. So on 30th day, you get 53.7 crores. Okay? And on 31st day, you get 107.4 crores. This is just an illustration of the power of compounding. Okay? Looks good? Sounds better? Yeah? So, the power of compounding is actually the eighth wonder of the world. If you are able to create a corpus, a meaningful corpus, and then allow it to compound, that is the most important thing that in investing. But we have to let us get to a meaningful corpus, right? Because that corpus, when it is meaningful, once that starts compounding, the returns are huge. I'll give you a small example. I don't know how many of you, but at least the seniors would realize the PF, the Provident Fund that we invest in, right? We can invest 1.5 lakhs every year in a Provident Fund. For the first 10 years, you keep investing 1.5 lakhs, 1.5 lakhs. After the 11th year, the interest on the corpus is higher than the principal that you are paying, than the 1.5 lakhs you are paying. So that's the power of compounding that you will be generating if you keep your money over a period of time. So this is the magic of the power. Another example, I think all of you would have heard about this example. This is the famous chess game where you keep one gold coin in the first block and double it in the next block, right? And how much do you end up at, right? It's a figure which cannot be calculated, or so it comes to, this final figure comes to 1,84,467 trillion gold coins, and 1 trillion is 1 lakh crore. 1 trillion is 1 lakh crore. So it's actually unfathomable what is the return a compounding effect can give you. Okay, right? So we know the compounding interest formula. Final amount is 1 plus r by t raised to 1 plus r by 100 raised to power t, correct? R is the rate of return, t is the time which is there. So what is the factor that we have under our control is the time, right? We have to ensure that this factor of time is something that we keep our maximum, which is in our control. We give it the maximum for returns, and the rate of return is determined by the market. Again, as I mentioned, rate of return is about 15% CAGR over the last 45 years, simple from the market, which is 654 times return. The third factor which one has to keep into mind while generating your corpus is that of inflation, because inflation is something that eats away your investments, right? If you had, anybody seen these coins, 5 paise, 10 paise, 20 paise? You've seen? Sure, good. So lucky that you've seen, because I think these are out of circulation by now, and even these ones will be out of circulation quite in the near future. We used to buy toffees for 10 paise when we were kids, right? so that is not available anymore. So these are some of the necessities that we had: a TV, a camera, a phone, and a fan. This has now evolved in our lifestyle to much more high-tech products which cost more, correct? And this is where inflation of lifestyle is also important. Inflation in terms of the real inflation of the economy, which reduces the value of your money, but also in terms of lifestyle, that is further adding up to the inflation. So inflation of material aspirations, whether you have luxury items, you have watches, you have designer clothing. So just to illustrate what is lifestyle inflation, so launch of iPhone in June 2007 costed about $500, at that point in time costed about, this $500 is about 25,000 rupees. Today, the value of that iPhone is about 500 bucks. If you would have invested the $500 in an Apple share, which was trading at about $4 at that point in time, you would have got 125 shares. Value of which today, the 125 shares, is roughly about $31,000 or 28 lakhs, which is 63 times in the US dollar value or 112 times in terms of INR, right? So that is something which lifestyle illustrates what is lifestyle inflation. Again, if you look at a Indian example, you have an Alto. In 2003, it was costing about 3 lakhs. Today, roughly about 15,000 bucks. So it has reduced. It has reduced by about 20 times. However, if you look at a share of Maruti Suzuki, that has gone up by 103 times. From 3 lakhs, you would be at about 3.8 crores, probably enough to buy a Rolls Royce. So again, this is just an illustrative example of what inflation is, what lifestyle inflation is. Why this example is being given is that you all should be aware that these are things that you need to keep in mind when you start your investment journey, and because this is something that will impact the final corpus that you will be generating. So financial independence, retire early. Key takeaways: beat inflation, invest in growth assets. Okay, so if you have to beat inflation, you have to take care that you are not putting your money into assets which are deflationary. You have to invest in assets which are growing. You have to start, you can invest from as low as 500 rupees a month, but what is important is that you should make a meaningful corpus so that the compounding value of that corpus goes up. Invest early. All of you are getting into your, final placements or and will be starting your careers very, very soon. Please ensure that you take the step as early as possible to start your investments to build meaningful corpus. Idle money earns nothing. Idle money earns nothing. Money can earn money. Give it time, give it the power of compounding. Achieve your goals with a systematic investment plan, which is called an SIP. Liquidity matters. You should always have corpus which is easy to manage, easy to sell, easy to use. There are lots of investment classes in the markets, but what is important is that what is in your control, what is it that you can easily access on your own. Power of compounding, as I mentioned, the earth wonder of the world. So thank you for being a patient audience, and all the very best to all of you in your future.
Mr. Das, for those simple and actionable key takeaways, truly useful. जितने भी यंग इन्वेस्टर इस टाइम पे हमारे साथ यहाँ पे प्रेजेंट है, मिस्टर दास आपको वापस से एक बार स्टेज पे आना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज जो हमारा Q&A सेशन है वो हम आपके साथ आगे बढ़ाना चाहेंगे, और साथ ही साथ आई वुड लाइक टू वेलकम मिस्टर नितिन जैन, फंड मैनेजर UTI म्यूचुअल फंड, फॉर दिस इंटरेक्टिव सेशन. देखिए, आप तो हमारे साथ काफ़ी देर से जुड़े हुए हैं, लेकिन आपके साथ साथ हमारे जो YouTube चैनल है CNBC आवाज़, लगातार नए नए व्यूअर्स उसमें जुड़ते जा रहे हैं. तो आप सभी को एक बार मैं फिर से बता दूं कि आप देख रहे हैं CNBC आवाज़ UTI म्यूचुअल फंड इन पार्टनरशिप विद CNBC आवाज़ प्रेजेंट उड़ान क्राइस्ट यूनिवर्सिटी में. अब आ गया है आप सभी का फेवरेट इंटरेक्टिव सेशन. काफ़ी देर से सुन रहे हैं, बोर तो नहीं हुए? मज़ा आ रहा है? अब आपकी बारी है, आप जो चाहे वो सवाल पूछ सकते हैं, मतलब इस टॉपिक से रिलेटेड, ऐसा नहीं आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स जाना है, बट हाँ फिनेंशियल लिटरेसी से, करियर को लेके आपको आगे क्या करना चाहिए, किस तरीके से अपनी इन्वेस्टमेंट की शुरुआत करनी चाहिए. तो काफ़ी सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं जो हमारे पास इस टाइम पे आ गए हैं ऑलरेडी, और काफ़ी सारे क्वेश्चंस हम वेट करेंगे कि आप में से जो भी पूछना चाहता है वो पूछे. तो चलिए मैं भी आगे बढ़ती हूँ और इस सेशन को मैं ही आगे बढ़ाने वाली हूँ. प्लीज वेलकम मी विद बिग राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज. वेलकम बोथ ऑफ यू. सबसे पहले संकल्प. यस.
Good afternoon. So we are all a young workforce who's going to join very soon, and we wanted to know how can we strike the balance between aggressive saving as well as spending guilt-free, because we are all love to spend on tech, gadgets and roam around. So we want to know how can we strike a perfect balance in this growing world.
So I'll give my answer and then maybe I'll request Siddharth to give his answer. But personally, I think one should not increase the lifestyle significantly once you get a job, because you will see your peers, your seniors using certain things, certain gadgets. So you should not try to match their lifestyle. You should have your own financial discipline, how much you want to save, how much you want to spend. So don't come under peer pressure or looking at seniors, is what they are using. So have your own lifestyle and take it, basically pace it gradually. Don't change it at once.
Yeah, so to add on to what Nitin said, I think one of the fundamentals of investing is goal-based investing, okay? So one needs to identify the goals that one has in the near, medium and long term. So you may have a goal to, let's say in the medium term, have a foreign trip, okay? You may have a medium to long term goal of buying a asset like a house, okay? So goal based investing will be sort of a balance between investing and also look at what your aspirations are in terms of spending. But yes, things like discretionary spending on you know, devices which may not be really prudent in a short term is something that you can always keep at the back of the mind. But once you have goal-based investing as your first step towards investing to meet an aspirational goal, I think you are taking an informed decision. What is it that I should be investing to meet my goal in the near, medium and the long term?
ऑल्सो इसमें एक चीज़ मैं भी ऐड करना चाहूँगी कि जब भी आप कोई चीज़ खरीदें तो आपकी क्या नीड है और क्या वांट है, अगर इसमें आप एक डिफरेंस पैदा करोगे तो आपको आपका जो इन्वेस्टमेंट जर्नी है उसमें भी हेल्प मिलेगी. कभी कभी होता है कि आज मुझे लग रहा है कि शायद से मुझे ये सैंडल नहीं पहनना चाहिए था, मेरी जो रिक्वायरमेंट है वो दूसरी है. मुझे समझना पड़ेगा क्या वो मेरी रिक्वायरमेंट थी या आई वांट अनदर सेट ऑफ सैंडल. तो जो अगर मेरी रिक्वायरमेंट थी तो डेफिनेटली मुझे लेनी पड़ेगी, बट वो सिर्फ मेरी वांट थी तो शायद से मैं उसको रोक के और जो वो कॉर्पस है अपने इन्वेस्टमेंट में लगा सकती हूँ. तो ये एक फॉर्मूला भी है जो हम अपनी लाइफ में यूज़ कर सकते हैं. मूविंग फॉरवर्ड, सिंदूरा, मेरे सिंदूरा प्लीज वेट, माइक विल कम.
Good afternoon. So you talked about how we need to maintain discipline in our investments. We need to start early. What is another big mistake that young people like us would make that can affect us long term?
So the most important thing is the choice of the asset class where you are investing. As he had shown in the presentation, you have to beat the inflation. If you're investing in a bond or fixed income at your age, while you're starting the career, that won't be the right choice for you. So you have to go for a higher growth kind of an option. So the choice of the asset you are investing in.
Yeah, and you can have a seat. And what is important, I think, is whenever you are investing, always understand fully the product that you are investing in. Never go for a product which you do not have full knowledge of, right? Because that is where we generally tend to fall flat on our faces. You would have read about the recent, reports that came out in SEBI about so many retail investors, 93% of retail investors losing money in futures and options. Investing to me is predominantly a very boring kind of a activity. We should not try to make it too exciting because probably that will lead us to take bigger risks, and that is something that we may, regret later on. So fundamentals of investing is start as early, be as regular, stay as long term, and always invest in products in which you have full knowledge on. Do not try and get into asset classes or products where the knowledge or the understanding of the product and how it operates is not very clear to you or you're not very confident of.
Well, next question, Gagan. Do we have Gagan here?
Good afternoon, sir. So my question is basically relating to the young generation who we see on the social media telling at the age of 22 or 23, they have made a lot of big corpus. So what do you want to tell to this generation about investing, without getting into the trap of getting rich quick? How do we invest properly in all the asset classes that is available?
Okay, so again, and as I said, one needs to be very prudent, one needs to be aware of the asset classes which is available. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise in social media, there's a lot of noise in all kinds of media which is available. But the challenge is we need to cut out the noise. We need to ensure that we are aware of what is our prudent asset classes. And one thing is very, very clear. The basis of any return, or let me be very general on this, the basis of the financial services industry is based on risk. Risk will determine the cost of an asset. Risk will determine the returns that you are generating. What is the risk that one needs to take is dependent on him or her, their own risk assessments, right? What kind of risks they are able to take. So we need to be very, very sure of when we are taking these kind of decisions. These are like life decisions. So if we get swayed away by a lot of media noise, social media noise that we keep on getting through influencers, I think that's the wrong approach towards taking prudent decisions, because then you will be always clouded with the opinions that are being shown or being said in the social media. So one needs to be careful of that. Assess your own risks, assess the products that you want to invest in, and take a measured decision on that.
And one should always look at the long term, what has been the return that has been generated in the long term. So for example, in the chart we had shown 15% CAGR. So maybe there could be years when returns can be as high as 30%, 50%, but over a long term equity has generated 15%. So maybe you should keep that as the upper end.
Well, moving forward, do we have Maria?
Hello, good afternoon, sir. So you had mentioned about financial independence and all. So I would like to know, how would you define financial well-being in today's world? Is it purely about wealth, or does it include emotional and mental peace as well?
That's a lovely question. I think mental peace, you can have
Yeah, emotional.
Yeah, emotional stability, mental peace is something which putting a value to it is very difficult, and that is equally, if not more important than financial security. And I think both go hand in hand, and because end of the day, if you are financially secure for your basic needs like health, education, that is and for yourself and your family, I think that also leads to a lot of mental well-being and mental peace and stability. So we need to see what is a fine balance between financial stability, financial well-being, and how does it link up to us being secure emotionally in the future as well. So both are linked, both are, I think, very closely linked. But yes, one needs to always keep a view out on how emotionally stable and how emotionally well-being you are in terms of your overall approach.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Moving forward, Sanket. Sorry, my bad, Saket. It's Saket, right?
Sir, so we've been discussing about the topic that how people have been or the people's expectation has been evolving lately. So how are organizations designing their compensation or reward systems that can support both well-being as well as financial security of the employees nowadays?
So many organizations, so you have two things, right? One is the financial security and the second is how to motivate the employees. So the one simple way to do it is how much is the fixed portion of the pay and what is the variable and what is the ESOP. So variable and ESOP is what motivates the employee to do better, where he or she does better and the company also does better. And they get rewarded for that. And the fixed part is the financial security, where you are being assured certain number. So of late, what we have seen, many companies are including ESOPs as a kind of carrot mechanism, where if you do well, you will be rewarded extra. If you don't do well, then you won't get that. So you have financial security in the form of fixed and somewhat variable, and motivation in the form of those ESOPs.
Yeah, and I think Nitin touched on the financial part of it. The softer part of it is taken care of by the HR team, right? I think the HR team designs a lot of courses or a lot of events which engages with the employees, which tries to gauge what their EQs are, and try to keep the morale high and the motivation high. I think those are things that keep on happening in any organization, any good organization. For all organizations, employees are a very, very critical part of their entire ecosystem, and I think all of them take measures to ensure that employee happiness, employee motivation is the highest, because then that's when they can give the best to the organization as well. So, yeah.
Well, moving forward, Nava.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that insightful session, sir. So my question is, we live in an era where automation and AI is reshaping the financial services industry. So in such an era, what are a few financial skills that is essential for aspiring professionals?
So many experts have talked about this, that there is IQ and EQ, so intelligence quotient and emotional quotient. So intelligence is something which can come from numbers, etc., where AI can help you. But emotional quotient is something which you learn through your experience. Even in our work, we come across many such critical situations where we have to take a decision, and all decisions can't be taken just based on data. So we have to bring experience into play, what has happened in the past. You have to judge the management in terms of quality of the management. Promoters, do you trust them? So all those things come with experience. So the ability to, basically the knowledge of history, how things have worked out in the past, your own experience, let's say 5 years, 10 years, you will see you will experience many things, many companies, and you will meet many people. Those things can't be replaced by AI. So that is something which comes on the emotional side, or which comes with experience. So we think that is something which is irreplaceable and which is the real asset.
Right. We rightly mentioned we are the real asset, and जो emotional quotient है, हम AI को intelligence और उसको feed तो कर सकते हैं, लेकिन वो feed कैसे किया गया है, हमसे ही, हमारी ही copy है और हमारा ही सब कुछ copy किया गया है. तो emotional quotient helps us a lot in this journey. Moving forward, Dhruv.
Good afternoon. So, sir, my question is behalf of everyone sitting here. If you have to give advice to MBA students about achieving the financial independence while maintaining long-term stability and peace of mind, what would it be?
Okay. So, interesting question, and long-term, I think you've answered half your question by the question itself. So you have to look at things in the long term. And as I mentioned during my presentation, start as early. The moment you get your first paycheck, please ensure that you start your SIP and be as regular. And SIP is a method which ensures that you are regular, right? So it's a method wherein you are investing on a monthly, weekly, fortnightly, whatever frequency you take on a regular basis. And as I said, as you also mentioned in your question, long term. Stay in the long term.
अभी इतनी थोड़ी देर पहले प्रेजेंटेशन आपको दिखाई गई थी, तो वहाँ पे फॉर्मूला था कंपाउंडिंग का, I which is the invested amount plus 1 plus R की पावर टाइम, तो दैट पार इज अ टाइम, वही टाइम जो है वो पार है. और एक कंसिस्टेंसी, इससे पहले जो बात हुई थी, यू हैव टू गेट अप, यू हैव टू ड्रेस अप एंड यू हैव टू शो अप, दैट इज कंसिस्टेंसी. चलिए काफ़ी सारे क्वेश्चन पूछ लिए, लेकिन काफ़ी सारे क्वेश्चन रह भी गए हैं, बट आप बाहर इन दोनों जो हस्तियां हैं उनसे मिल सकते हैं. थैंक यू बोथ ऑफ यू फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अस हियर. और काफ़ी सारे सेशन है हमारे पास जिनको हमें आगे बढ़ाना है और काफ़ी इस बातचीत को आगे लेके जाना है. अब बात करते हैं हमारे जनरेशन की जो कोर एनर्जी है. कोर एनर्जी का मतलब क्या होता है? एनी गेसेस? आवाज नहीं आ रही. खाना कम खाया? नहीं पता. इनोवेशन, ट्रांजिशन. लेकिन ये जो इनोवेशन है क्या केवल आइडियाज में होनी चाहिए? नहीं, ये जो इनोवेशन है वो पर्पस के साथ होनी चाहिए, तभी शायद से हमें एक बड़ा चेंज देखने को मिलता है. तो चलिए इसी इनोवेशन और इसी आइडिया के साथ इस सेशन की शुरुआत करते हैं और आगे बढ़ाते हैं इस डिस्कशन को. और इस डिस्कशन को लीड करेंगे अगेन CNBC आवाज से विपिन भट्ट, और उनके साथ है दो अमेजिंग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स जो रीडिफाइन कर रहे हैं बिजनेस और साथ ही साथ सस्टेनेबिलिटी को. प्लीज वेलकम सहर मंसूर, फाउंडर एंड CEO ऑफ Bare Necessities, and Yamini Bhatt, founder Waymo. Let's welcome them all with a big round of applause.
Am I audible? Yes. Whoever is on the sound, please little bit quick. The transition is not as smooth as should be. Anyways, break चाहिए? लंबा हो गया? चाहिएगा भी तो भी नहीं मिलेगा. You have to sit and listen. Okay. So after the compounding interest, the magic of compounding interest, and a very good presentation by UTI gentlemen. So I think अब 2-3 दिन तो सपने में वही आएगा कि अच्छा 1 का 2, 2 का मम्मी पापा से 1 रुपया मांगते हैं, अगले दिन उनको बताएंगे 2 रुपये, अब बताओ कितना दे सकते हो. सो दैट इज रियली इंटरेस्टिंग एंड द गुड पार्ट इज दैट कि अगर आप वो कर जाएंगे, उसका आधा भी कर जाएंगे, तो लाइफ बिकम चेंज इन टर्म्स ऑफ द मनी, क्योंकि उसकी ज़रूरत हमको हर तरफ होती ही है. नाउ कमिंग टू दिस सेशन, वी हैव टू entrepreneurs who would not just define the things as a journey which is to earn money or to do something. It is about, as the word used by Kanchan, sustainability. And sustainability is something which is really, really important and the need of the time. थोड़ी अलग बात करेंगे यहाँ पर हमने, क्योंकि पहले entrepreneur skills और बाकी सारी चीज़ें तो start की, लेकिन आप दोनों से ही यामिनी फर्स्ट यू, आप एक अच्छे कॉर्पोरेट जॉब में थे, आई थिंक यू आर विद मैकेंजी, और उसको छोड़ के वाइमो स्टार्ट करना. वाई? बिकॉज अभी जब हमने थोड़ी देर पहले पूछा यहाँ पे सभी बच्चों से कि वो क्या करना चाहेंगे, तो मेजॉरिटी ऑफ देम से कि दे वांट टू जॉइन सम काइंड ऑफ अ जॉब. बहुत कम थे अभी आज की तारीख में जिन्होंने कहा कि मैं कुछ अपना शुरू करना चाहूँगा. What inspire you or what make you to start your own journey and living a job at McKinsey?
I think in general, I've started understanding that in the world some people have a kida, and and then otherwise they are very well adjusted. But there was always a itch to do something about things that I saw were not working perfectly, whether it was the elevator of a building or whether it was. And in consulting, you get a lot of opportunity. I think it's a great idea for people to actually start with a job and then consider, because you really don't know what you're walking into. Knowing everything about this, not everything, but knowing a lot about the space I got into, there was still a lot I learned along the way. Today, if I reflect in 12 years of the journey, I think what I knew was less than 1% of what I know today about it, or even 3 years later, what I learned about it, right? Corporate or any job at any place gives you a very good baseline exposure to how things work. it exposes you to problems you've probably never faced before. So I think it's a very good baseline to start with. McKinsey was an amazing opportunity. It was in consulting. So every 6 months we worked on an average with a different customer, a different problem statement. So we got to go very deep into trying to understand how things work or don't work. I'd done a lot of sales transformation work. And after 5 years of doing that, I realized customers still found it tough to implement some of the things we were saying because technology did not enable them to do that. And that's how Waymo was started, with the goal of building sales technology that helps make some behavior stick on an ongoing basis. Right? So, yeah, that's what led to the shift.
Your answer makes sense. क्योंकि हम देखते हैं कि most of the startups, जो founders हैं, उन्होंने पहले कहीं ना कहीं job किया, वहाँ से सीखा, और फिर उन्होंने आगे जाके अपना ही काम किया. लेकिन उसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में और भी बहुत सारे लोग रहे होंगे. Why that particular person started his own startup going forward? वो डिफरेंस क्या है? मतलब मैं ये बात समझना चाहता हूँ आपसे कि इसमें से जैसे बहुत सारे बच्चों ने कहा कि वो जॉब करना चाहते हैं ना, और दे गॉट द आंसर कि शुरू में वो एक्सपीरियंस लेंगे. लेकिन क्या डिफरेंशिएट करेगा कि इनमें से कोई एक जाके आगे एंटरप्रेन्योर बनेगा और बाकी सब जॉब ही करेंगे?
I think someone in the previous session talked about safety net, and it's everyone's comfort level on what that safety net is. My dad started with a job that he retired in with the same company, right? I have known people in my colleagues or batchmates who went into a similar role as me have stated goals, like one of them wanted 100 million in the bank. That for them was the minimum amount, right? And they wanted a reasonably predictable path there. And while I didn't have a number, I had a sense of safety. After 5 years of working, I had a sense of, if this was the rest of my life, how would I want it to be? And at that point, certain other things mattered, things I wanted to try, right? And I was itching to do by myself. So I think that number is very different. I think 100 million is an outrageous number, first of all. Just to clarify, nobody should set that as their goal here. That person is still dredging it. But I think you can, depending on what your background is, where you come from, what your responsibilities are. I've seen people who could be highly entrepreneurial, but they've not been able to step away from some very heavy duty responsibilities, right? But I think it's that balance, and you'll know when you feel like you can take the risk, because the probability of success is very low. You should be okay with being an absolute fail, and you should know not to judge yourself for that. You should judge yourself only for giving it your best and trying. So you should be at a place where you can take that risk.
Nice one. सहर, आप WHO में थी पहले, फिर आपने बेयर नेसेसिटी शुरू किया. आपकी भी जवाब बिल्कुल वैसी होगी या थॉट प्रोसेस वैसी थी जैसी यामिनी की है, या you thought something different?
Yeah. So for me, it was quite different. I always thought I would work in the impact space, do something that would be beyond just a financial goal. I always wanted to create environmental impact and social impact. So I worked in the United Nations, very optimistic about the world. I was at the WHO in Geneva, and it was amidst the Ebola outbreak. So it was a very hectic time, but also I got to see how systems around health moved really quickly, which was very inspiring for me. Fast forward a few years, that felt a little too fancy, 14th floor, and it felt very disconnected from the real world. So I moved back home to Bangalore, and I started to work in the solar energy and access space. So I worked at Selco India, Selco Foundation. I came up with new areas in which we could solarize a public need. So we solarized public health centers, hospitals, sewing machines, roti rolling machines, papad rolling machines, and then kind of scaled up through the social enterprise. While I was working at Selco, everyone knew I was really excited about waste. So I had actually set up the waste segregation at office. I did a little demo, had put up the signs. So there was this community actually very close to our very fancy international airport, supposed to be the best airport in the world, right? Our Bangalore International Airport. Very close to that is a waste picker community. And they live in very basic blue tarpaulin homes, informal housing, obviously no access to flowing water, roof over their head, all of that. And their day-to-day is that they collect waste. So when someone at work came across this community, they said, oh, let's put Zahra on this project because she's, obsessed about waste. So that's how I got involved, and I actually would follow them on my cycle in the mornings, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. I was kind of noticing the conditions in which they were segregating our waste, but I also kind of got to understand how much money do they get for 1 kg plastic, 1 kg of cardboard, what were the high value products that they can recycle, what's not a high value. But beyond all of this, I just really got to humanize them. They were someone's dad, they were someone's mom, they were someone's brother, and they were, you know, without any gloves or anything, going through all of this waste, whether it was sanitary napkins or, you know, broken glass. And that's when it you know, really struck to me that I've studied environmental things, worked in the environmental space, but our waste problem, it's beyond just an environmental issue. It's also a human justice issue. So that's how I got to think about how to create everyday products that you and I might use, like a compostable bamboo toothbrush, like shampoo that comes in a shampoo bar without any packaging waste. So trying to reimagine everyday products that you and I need to use, because it's really ironic, us being clean and us showering and us being safe is causing the world to be, or our earth to be, so dirty. So it was very kind of contradictory and didn't make sense. So that's why I started Bare Necessities.
तो सर ये बताइए कि सस्टेनेबिलिटी या जो इमोशनल पार्ट आपकी स्टोरी का आपने बताया कि आपने क्या देखा और वहाँ से आपको आइडिया है, बट व्हेन इट्स कम्स टू द बिजनेस आपको बैलेंस शीट क्रिएट करनी है जहाँ प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी दिखनी चाहिए, तभी आपके पास इन्वेस्टर्स आएंगे, तभी आपको सीड मनी मिलेगा. कितना डिफिकल्ट था ये?
I'm completely self-taught. You know, I didn't take. I took a few business courses in college, but I was largely studying environmental economics and environmental law in Cambridge. So I was completely humanities. It's kind of, if you have to put me in a bucket, I'm an arts kid or humanities kid. So yes, I learned. I went to INSEAD. I did an executive course there. I watched a bunch of videos. There's access to so much knowledge now. So really leveraged all of that. Started very simple and small. Basic Excel. What are my expenses? What are how much am I making? What am I left with? Started really, really basic, and then kind of obviously have evolved my business model since. But it's a lot to learn on the job. But that's what entrepreneurship is. You just kind of swim right in, and jump into the deep end, and then just swim.
Okay. Yamini, जब Vimo आपने start किया, how old it is?
It's in the 12th year.
12th year. तो डेफिनेटली एक दशक पूरा निकल गया, 10 साल या 12 साल हम कहें. तो शुरुआत में जर्नी ऐसी, आज से 12 साल पहले अगर हम देखें तो स्टार्टअप का सिनेरियो भी इंडिया में वैसा नहीं था जैसा आज है. आज आपके लिए बहुत सारी फंडिंग एक्सेसिबल है, गवर्नमेंट के बहुत सारे प्रोग्राम हैं. लेकिन उस समय आज से 12 साल पहले जब आपने ये सब शुरुआत की थी, तो डू यू हैव एनी आइडिया कि ये कहाँ तक पहुँचेगा, कैसे पहुँचेगा? यू जस्ट ट्राई, यू जस्ट गिव इट अ ट्राई.
Actually, I mean, bunch of my friends were in some of the early stage investment companies, so I had a sense of how the world works, but the intent during starting, and I'm sure it's the same for Sahar, was not that, hey, I see a lot of founders today talking about fundraising as the first milestone or goal. That was not even in the thought process, because it was not a thing at that point to start up. Actually, starting up was considered reasonably stupid option at that point in time. From McKinsey, you should be going into a private equity or a corporate kind of a role, a CXO role, right? So the idea was that there is a problem, it's exciting. The thought of being able to convert that into a product, and that product being used and us getting paid for that, was probably what I was intensely focused on. Funding came, the thought of even getting that funded came much later, when suddenly this started growing and we didn't have money to hire a head to fully build out the product, etc. Right? But we were pretty narrowly focused, and rightly so, on finding the right product for the right customer and user initially. Yeah. Okay,
and what about you?
So I'm very lucky. I have some amazing angels on my cap table, like Mr. Prashant Prakash of Axel. He's like the founding father of venture capital in India, and just really believed in the product. He was a consumer, and then has reinvested in us multiple times. So we have some amazing angels, and the most spectacular thing about it is all of them are actually from Bangalore, although only one currently lives in Bangalore. One lives in California, one lives in UAE. But it's really, really nice how everyone wants to kind of give back and wants to really put their money on something that they believe in. So I think that value alignment within my angel investors is something that I'm extremely grateful for. They've been with us on this journey for about 4 years, and some new ones joined on even as recent as May this year.
बट शहर इतना आसान तो नहीं रहा होगा, बहुत
No,
सारे
बिल्कुल
हर्डल्स भी
नहीं,
आए होंगे,
हाँ।
बहुत सारी डिफिकल्टीज भी आई होंगी, वो सब कैसे निकाला?
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, since we're talking a little bit about money, I'm going to share a little candidly. I, you know, lost my dad when I was 8 years old, and our financial situation changed completely overnight. And they say, especially women, they really think about money only when there's a death or a divorce, the 2 Ds. And unfortunately, it was something I experienced. I have 2 older sisters. You know, I went to all these fancy schools, but you won't believe it. I went on a complete full ride scholarship, and my undergrad as well. I had a partial scholarship, and then I worked 3 jobs on campus. So I learned a lot about kind of, you know, moving from a poverty mindset to a more prosperity mindset, but also just about, you know, how to start small but start investing, you know, your personal money, etc., from a very early age. And then I think I also brought that financial discipline to how I run my startup. And that's being something that's so close to my heart. I'm really proud to tell you that we have a 100% women-run manufacturing team. None of them had a bank account before they started working at my MSI schools. That's something I'm really excited by. So we also do actually financial inclusion workshops for them. Okay, you have a bank account, what does that mean? So, you know, we also, of course, give them interest-free loans. We've helped support a lot of their kids' education, a lot of health-related things, but also access to health insurance, which, again, they did not have, and they did not know how to use or leverage these systems. So that's something that, having been through some of these personal experiences from a really early age, I felt that it was very natural for me to try and build that into the business that I'm building today.
It's an inspiring journey. और जैसा reaction भी आया, so all the student can learn a lot from you here. यामिनी, अभी जैसे इन्होंने भी कहा mindset, and हम किसी भी बड़े entrepreneur की बात करें, whether in India या बाहर भी, तो सब लोग इस word का बहुत use करते हैं. What they actually want to say, even अभी यामिनी ने भी कहा, या आपकी भी एक understanding होगी, is it the skill set which is important, is it something else which is important, or the mindset is the only thing which create the difference?
I think, so there were 3-4 different ideas I was thinking of when I was about to start up, right? And a very wise man, my husband, told me, what is it that you're really good at that people will be willing to pay money for? Why is it that, because many ideas are like, anyone can come up with ideas, right? But what is it that will give you an advantage to win? Why should you win? And I think there are many intrinsics related to that. There are those who have the grit and commitment and the willingness to see things through, etc. So those are all generic mindsets that are required. If you're getting into startup something, it's not an overnight game. It's a very long-term game, and like you start with 1% knowledge and you learn everything along the way, right? Whether that's formal, informal knowledge. It's a lot of on-the-job training, right? So those are all like hygiene factors for if you want to start up, have the grit to see it through. But outside of that, I think what is it that you bring that is special as a distinctive advantage really helps, right? Like, and the willingness to do the research to really understand how to make it work. In her case, it was coming from the background of actually doing something in the space of sustainability. In my case, it was consulting on sales transformation multiple times over. So you can see the pattern and realize what kind of solutions don't solve and what kind of solutions truly solve. But also in early days of doing something, you have to be honest to yourself on what early success signals are. Sometimes the product selling or a customer paying you may not be just a sign of success, right? Their satisfaction with the product is a sign of success. In the case of software, we have something called daily active usage. So a customer may have paid for the next 1 year. They might have given the sales software to 1,000 people. I think UTI is our customer, so they would have 1,000 employees using Mimo. But are those employees using it in the behavioral style that you expect them to use? Like how many times a day, for doing what kind of activities? What is their level of engagement? Is it making their work easier or tougher? How many seconds are they spending on it? So there is a lot of energy in the initial days that needs to go into perfecting that behavior, that the anticipated use of the product and the problem it's solving is reflecting actually in numbers that you can measure and track. And if that happens, then that's the first big milestone. After that, it's a question on you've sold to 1, how can you sell to 10? So cracking the sales problem. After that, if you have to sell to 100, then it's the funding problem, right? But the first thing starts with solving a problem genuinely for a user or a customer.
I think ये बात भी वही है जो हम पहले सेशन में कर रहे थे कि first you have to identify a problem, then give a genuine solution to everybody, and that is also within the cost. अगर उसकी cost भी बहुत ऊपर निकल गई तो वो भी गलत हो जाएगा. Now concluding this session, एक advice कोई आप दोनों जो इन बच्चों को देना चाहेंगे, just if they want to start their own startup journey or want to do some job or do anything in their life, one thing, starting with you.
I think don't forget to be happy. I think everyone chases the financial metric, but I think you should also think about what really makes you happy. And I think the time is gone where you only think about one metric, which is finance. I think you have to kind of urge yourself to think beyond that, and how do you create things that maybe care about people, planet, and profit, for example.
Right. Yamini?
My advice would be whatever you choose to do, whether you choose to work to pay for your passions or whether you choose to work to learn and get to somewhere or discover what your passion is, whatever you choose to do, make sure you're present in the moment. If you've landed in a job that you wanted to, you might still discover a lot of things that you did not anticipate in that job. If you landed in a job that you did not expect to, you will still discover a lot of things that you will fall in love with, right? Just understand the fact that whether you planned for it or did not plan for it, there'll be 10% that you love, 90 that you don't. But you'll discover that 10 only if you are present in the moment, when you show up and really involve yourself, deal with the 90%, but really be involved, right? And that 10% will show you what your biggest strengths are, where you will be willing to go all in. And then whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's going and finding the perfect next job, etc., try to expand that 10% into 90% of what your time is spent on, right? And that's how you get to the whole Ikigai framework piece, right? You love someone is willing to pay and you're willing to show up for that.
Right. I think many people will connect to advice you've given here. क्योंकि जैसे हम थोड़ी देर पहले जब बात कर रहे थे, so it's a different set of advice. But now with you people, I think male, female kind of a thing also create a difference. I'm saying it openly. It's a mindset. I think women approaches the things quite differently, and there's a different approach when the male is there, and also the generation matters. But I think ये बच्चे हमसे और आगे के हैं, तो इनकी approach भी बहुत अलग होगी, and I think that every approaches bring something new to the table every time. Yes, you want to say
Absolutely.
something?
I was going to ask them for advice. What do you think we should be?
बहुत सारी पढ़ाई कर लें, बड़ी बड़ी डिग्रीज ले लें, बहुत सारा एक्सपीरियंस इकट्ठा कर लें, लाइफ में बहुत सक्सेसफुल हो जाएं, लेकिन जो गुरु की जगह होती है वो irreplaceable है. तो आप सबको मेरा भी बहुत बहुत प्रणाम. किससे शुरू करूं? तो मैम मैं आपसे शुरू करता हूं. चलिए, लेडीज फर्स्ट. तो अभी हमने बहुत सारी बात, अच्छा उससे पहले एक छोटा सा सर्वे, क्योंकि ये बात हम थोड़ी अलग करेंगे. हमने बहुत सारे फाइनेंस की बात कर ली, करियर की बात कर ली. ये बताइए कि हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू वांट टू बिकम रिच? रेज योर हैंड्स. ऑलमोस्ट एवरीबॉडी, ऑब्वियस.
हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू डोंट वांट टू?
कुछ हाथ वैसे नहीं उठे, कुछ हाथ नहीं उठे. आई डोंट नो द रीजन इज, बट ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. एंड हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू वांट टू बिकम हैप्पी? एवरीबॉडी. Now, the third question. If I ask to choose only one thing, either you want to become rich or either you want to become happy. So, first, happy. Okay? Now, rich. So, I think, but happy, I think, is the majority. So, thank you very much. And this is very important to become both in your life. It's not, I'm not trying to say कि आपको पैसे नहीं कमाने, आपको धनवान नहीं करना. अभी आपने कंपाउंडिंग का थ्योरी पढ़ा, एंड मनी इज अ नेसेसिटी ऑफ द लाइफ, बट एट द सेम टाइम इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू बी हैप्पी. एक बार आपके जीवन में खुशी होगी और पैसे नहीं होंगे तो शायद काम चल जाएगा, लेकिन अगर पैसे हुए और खुशी नहीं हुई तो शायद मजा नहीं आएगा. राइट मैम, इस बैलेंस को हम कैसे स्ट्राइक करें? इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू स्ट्राइक अ बैलेंस बिटवीन हैप्पीनेस एंड अर्निंग्स. What do you say? क्या कर सकते हैं बच्चे की वो चीज मिस ना हो जाए? Because we are now in 2025, the world is entirely changed. We are in the world of social media, reels, etc. Lot of troubles on a mental level. These kind of issues are rising day by day. Earning also is not that easy, which was some few years back. But how to keep a balance between earning right and be happy?
Your question was very good, being happy and being rich. I think to be happy, we need certain things in our life. One important thing is that we need to have financial independence. So we cannot ignore money, ignore riches. We need to have our basic needs met, not just basic needs, a normal, decent, good life. That can vary from individual to individual. But money is an important part, but money cannot buy joy or happiness, which we see from stories of lots of people who have got a lot of money but then not happy in life. So it's important that we have to have a balance. It's important to have an education around it also, because somewhere, as in the beginning of the session, too much of competitiveness about making money, about, and it was good that you pointed out about the holistic education. In Christ, we focus a lot on holistic education. So we bring in the importance of being holistically grown students, where they have an idea about balance between importance of money in life and importance of happiness in life. So that balance, that thought of balance is very important. That comes from true interactions, through listening to talks, sessions, and I think it is a little bit rooted in our Indian ethos as well. We see Indian ethos is not after money, unlike capitalism, where the Western world extremely focuses on a capitalist mentality of the wealth maximization, etc. But in India, our traditional ethos tells us to be happy and content, at the same time innovative also. So keeping a balance between all these, that balanced mindset will keep us happy. That's what I feel.
Professor Krishna, I think आपको कई सालों से you went through many batches जहाँ बच्चे बदलते गए लगातार. What is the difference you notice? क्या change आ रहा है with every passing year? The generation is getting newer. क्या change हुआ है? उसमें क्या अच्छा है और क्या है जो शायद उतना अच्छा नहीं है लेकिन उसे correct करना चाहिए?
Yeah, difficult question.
Looking at you.
Yeah, I think there is something that has stayed along, right? They're all very curious. They really want to understand things. They're very passionate about what they want to do in life. Those kind of things. They're very passionate. Somewhere over a period of time, we found that they're a little skeptical about what is in store for them, right? They're confident about what they know, but when it comes to what is in store for them, they're a little skeptical. That is number one. Second one, I think, is the current world gives you a lot of options. In the past, probably maybe 10 batches before, versus now, from a normal mobile to a smartphone kind of a change that we have seen, right? There are a lot of things that are available. They are spoiled by choices, if I can mention. I think those are the two important things that I have very clearly seen. But I think the underlying thing is they're all very curious. They want to really understand. They want to grow well and very positive in their attitude.
It's important to be positive, and that is important. Dr. Satyaseelan, again, with your experience, I want to ask this thing. Over the years, you saw so many students. What is one or two factors which differentiate between a successful person and one who is not that successful? I'm talking in terms of overall success, not just making the money. Yeah, it's working now.
Yeah, so I think one biggest difference is the willingness to stay in the game. I think many speakers spoke about it on the resilience. I think get up, dress up, and show up. So very often, success is not so much about doing great things once in a while. It is showing up every day. So I think really that is what I would say differentiates between who's good and who's not good in the long run. I think that willingness to get up, I think keep pushing every day. I think that makes a huge difference, because if you really go even from a spiritual perspective, many people talked about it, that I mean, there is going to be stress and there is going to be problem in life. I don't think that we can wake up any day, and if you really believe the Buddhist thought, our very existence is stress. So therefore, stress is a given at any point of time. The only is how do we deal with it? And therefore, that mindset of staying in the game, keep on pushing it every day, I think that makes a huge difference. I think coming back to our own MBA program, we know that we don't make it easy for the students when it comes to course curriculum, the events. I think it's very, very hectic, but I think the ones who succeed are the ones who take everything and still remain positive and have that energy to move on each day. So that's really what I would say makes a huge difference, that willingness to stay in the game.
मरीना मैम आपके लिए ये सवाल है. I think I'm audible? So ये सवाल आपके लिए है कि stress is one word which sir used. And nowadays this is a big problem. How you tell these people to manage that stress? What is the way to successfully manage the stress while doing all the things? I'm not saying कि ये अपना काम करना बंद कर दे, ये social media पर नहीं जाए, ये कोई और चीज ना करे, ये बात का टेंशन ना ले कि इनको आगे जॉब करना है, AI आ गया, ये सब आ गया, but how to manage that?
Stress is a very common thing. I think nowadays small kids also complain about stress. The lifestyle change, the cultural change is causing a lot of stress for our students also. So we regularly address that. We talk to them about stress. Many practical tips we give them, like getting into sports, getting into different activities, hobbies, and be very active in campus on different co-curricular and extracurricular activities. We focus on plenty of activities on a weekly basis. Our students are involved in a lot of in-personal activities also, in person, not just online, so which helps them. We have small mentoring sessions where faculty interact every week, 3 hours with a small group of students. So we help them, we talk to them, and we are supporting them, and students also, peer sessions are there, they help each other. And we talk about stress. The first thing is we talk about stress. We talk about, and there is an awareness that stress is something which is there and we need to handle. And we use a term called use stress. Okay, so reasonable stress is good. That pushes us towards our purpose. When the purpose comes beyond our stress, stress doesn't become stress. Right now, our students are all in the recruitment phase. Some companies came, some of them got selected, some of them did not get selected, so stress is building up. But then, of course, you know, you have a purpose and a better company is coming, a better role is coming for you. So that purpose and working towards that purpose makes them feel, okay, this stress is small. And when they see their friends getting placed and they come and share their story, they feel, okay, you know, next day, next company will be mine. And then, so we tell them to convert their stress into eustress and have that purpose. So that purpose will reduce their stress. They know, you know, when they get into that particular role in that particular, I'm taking the example of campus hiring because MBA student, that is the primary thing at this moment. So when they have that purpose very clear in their mind, the stress is, they are able to manage their stress.
अच्छा, आप ही लोगों से पूछते हैं, how many of you feel stressed or little bit depressed? मतलब कभी दिन में एक आध बार या हफ्ते में एक बार, महीने में एक बार? Honest answer. How many of you? Most of you. And कितनी बार हम इसकी बात करते हैं? मतलब है तो सही, लेकिन हमने जाके किसी से बात की, टीचर से, घर पे, फ्रेंड से, ये डिफिकल्ट है शायद, बात करना नहीं हो पाता है. Few, I think hardly one. डॉक्टर साहब, कितना इम्पॉर्टेंट है ये इस वक्त में कि दे शुड ओपन अप टू टॉक. जैसे मैम ने कहा कि वी हैव सेशंस अराउंड एयर में, पर फिर भी मुझे लगता है कि वो अभी भी स्टिल इट्स अ टैबू टू गो एंड आस्क कि आई एम अंडर स्ट्रेस और मुझे ये थोड़ा सा डिप्रेशन है, आई हैव फियर और दिस दैट. तो हाउ इम्पॉर्टेंट दिस फैक्टर इज?
It is very important. I mean, there is no two words about it. So how do you actually, how are you able to express it to somebody who is very close to you, right? It can be a friend, it can be parent. It's important to talk. It is very important to actually express what you're feeling, right? That is the most important. Who it is probably a choice that you want to exercise, whether it is with your friend or a parent, or maybe, I mean, we have a mentoring kind of an arrangement. We have personal counselors also. I mean, depends on what kind of stress you're going through, right? So, therefore, that is something that people can be, very open about. But I think equally important is to understand how much of so-called stress I can take.
Yeah, it's important.
Right, that is very important. Where do you draw that line is the very important thing. So that stress level can be different for different people. It's not going to be uniform, right? So one is to understand where do you stand and how do you make sure that you share it with somebody. That is one. And equally important is take it easy, right? Life is full of stress. I mean, you can't avoid stress, you can't avoid problems, but I think you need to be, you need to take it easy, but one of the important things about taking it easy is the awareness, right? You need to be aware that, like for example, if you are angry, the moment you feel that you are angry, the anger comes down, right? So awareness is very important. That actually helps you in terms of managing stress. But you need to share. I mean, there is no other option, and there are a lot of facilities that university offers in terms of actually managing the stress and things like that. Of course, the curriculum is such that they are stressed, but it's not, the intention is not to stress out. It actually prepares you for what is life ahead, right? In the corporate, it is not going to be easy, right? When Dr. Narayan Murthy actually says that 70 plus hours of work you need to do. There is an expectation. If the organization has to grow, you have to grow. There's a lot of work that is required. But I think stress is a part of our life, but how do we manage it is very important.
And abhi 2-3 दिन पहले, last week there is a World Mental Health Day, and there is some doctor which comes on the TV and they said कि जैसे आपकी body है, उसी तरह से आपका mind है. बॉडी को भी आप प्रैक्टिस कराते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, यू वेंट टू जिम और आपने पहले दिन 10 किलो उठाया, फिर 20 किलो उठाया, धीरे धीरे यू गॉट टू इंक्रीज द वेट. उसी तरह आप स्ट्रेस के भी लेवल हैं. आपने थोड़ा स्ट्रेस लिया, आपने स्ट्रेस के लेवल बढ़ाया और बढ़ाया, तो योर माइंड बिकम ट्रेंड फॉर दैट. अब जो प्रॉब्लम हो रही है सर, डॉक्टर सत्यशीलन, वो ये हो रही है कि इन दिनों जो ऑक्यूपेंसी ऑफ माइंड है वो बहुत बढ़ गई है, बहुत ज़्यादा. आपके पास आपकी पढ़ाई भी है, स्टूडेंट्स के लिए शायद और ज़्यादा है, या हर किसी के लिए है. आपके पास थोड़ी बहुत फियर्स भी हैं कि आगे कैंपस रिप्लेसमेंट होना है. सोशल मीडिया आपका टाइम लेता ही लेता है. यू कीप ऑन स्क्रॉलिंग, वॉचिंग रील्स एक्सेट्रा. सो देयर आर टू मेनी थिंग्स फॉर योर माइंड बट माइंड की कैपेबिलिटी नहीं है उतनी. हमने उनसे सवाल पूछा कि ऐसा क्या हुआ कि आज से 20-30 साल पहले ऐसी प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी, एंड व्हाट हैपेंड नाउ, जबकि ये तो कम होना चाहिए, हम तो एडवांस हो गए. तो दे सेड कि माइंड की जितनी कैपेसिटी है उससे ज़्यादा चीज़ें उसके पास आ गई. एंड देयर कम्स द क्वेश्चन ऑफ डिसिप्लिन. आप वक्त पे सो जाएं, आप सोशल मीडिया स्क्रॉल करें लेकिन थोड़ा करें, आप फ्यूचर के लिए लेकिन डरें लेकिन थोड़ा डरें, तो क्या डिसिप्लिन इसका एक आंसर हो सकता है? डिसिप्लिन मीन्स टू डू द थिंग्स इन बैलेंस. आपको सब करना है, किसी चीज को बंद नहीं कर देना है कि आपको कल से ये फोन को हाथ नहीं लगाना है या वो नहीं करना है, बट टू डू इट इन अ मॉडरेट वे, इन अ डिसिप्लिनरी वे.
I think discipline, yeah, I mean, I will answer it a little differently. So generally it is believed, I mean, we believe that creative people are not disciplined. I mean, there's a belief that if you're creative, you kind of doing some, out of the world things, and your thought process works very this one, but actually creative is a very disciplined process. So therefore, discipline is extremely essential to how you do things in terms of whether it's a mindset. I think you asked earlier in the earlier session, you asked the question of whether mindset is important or action is important. And I will say both are equally important, because it's like this. You can dream all the dreams that you have, but if you don't put the foundations under it, nothing is really, it's all only this one. So same thing, you can think of all this one that you want to think, but if you don't take action, it's not really going to work. So therefore, in that sense, whatever aspirations we have, we want to, okay, let me give another quote. To be an overnight success, it takes 20 years. There's a statement. To be an overnight success, it takes 20 years, which means to be that overnight success or the startup, you need to put 20 years of effort to go through that. Therefore, I think that aspect of discipline is extremely essential in how we deal. And I'll also give one more example. Let's say, for example, we are fighting a war, and you have a choice of putting a commando in that war, or you have putting an untrained person in that war. What would be a choice be? Obviously, the commando. Why? Because the commando is trained to deal with the same thing. I think in life, if we have to face those challenges, I think having that discipline is very, very essential. In whether it be stress, whether it be success, whatever it is, I think we need a great amount of discipline, and I think that's very central to our way of working and thinking, and I think that's what we are also trying to do in our MBA program, that discipline, come on time, leave on time, stay in the class, attendance is monitored. So the whole idea is that you need to stay disciplined, and otherwise, success really, it's an accident. The probability of success gets minimized if you're not disciplined. That's my take on that. Yeah.
Right. Marina ma'am, what's your take?
I agree with sir. Discipline is really important, and a balance between, you were mentioning about the time on social media, the time on, we always tell our students, one major reason for their stress is lack of sleep. Yeah. Current generation sleep much less compared to, so managing your time, discipline, which is very difficult, because all these are very addictive and you tend to spend a lot of time on it. So it's very very difficult to bring in that discipline into all these baskets of things which demand my time. So consciously bring that discipline, and then balance between all of this will help in
So why we talked a lot about discipline? Because there is a research which says that most of the successful people on this planet are the most disciplined person. आप उनका डिसिप्लिन शायद आप ऐसे कैलकुलेट नहीं करेंगे कि वो सुबह 6 बजे उठ जाते थे, बट वो जो भी काम कर रहे हैं, they keep on doing it with discipline each day, every day, and what makes them successful. So that is why discipline is so important. It's not about just coming to the college on a right time or doing things in a manner कि 6 बजे ये करूँगा, 7 बजे physics पढ़ूँगा, 8 बजे chemistry पढ़ूँगा, not like that, but to do something consistently and with all your efforts. This is what discipline means here. Yes?
Yeah, there is a book called Outliers.
Outliers.
It says that, it says that to become an expert, you need to spend 20,000 hours on a particular thing. 20,000 hours. Then you will be an expert. You would have touched every aspect of that particular discipline. So if you want to call yourself an expert, that is the kind of discipline that you must have. That is one aspect. The second aspect is this discipline also has got multiple stuff. One is the mindset, and how knowledge, and how do you actually implement it. In Sanskrit you call it as Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. And it is in that order. It's not in the reverse order, right? You need to have an intent to do. Right? That should be in your mind. You must really understand what you want to do and be clear about it. That is the fun. Then how to do it is the knowledge, which is the Jnana Shakti. You need to actually understand, get the knowledge of doing that. And the third one is Kriya Shakti. This is like, simple example of that is, I want to drive a car. I can read a manual and then think that I can drive a car, but I need to sit in the seat or in the wheel and actually drive the car. So all the three have to be come into, they have to come into place, right? That is the most important thing. And that happens because of the practice and then being there, doing it over and over and again. And practice is a very boring thing, by the way. It's not very easy. Right? You need to do it, keep on doing it again and again and again, and at some point in time, some light at the end of the tunnel, somebody will recognize you and give you a award or something like that. So that's
and one very good example of that discipline is when we are talking about that UTI presentation. All of you are thinking if this is something like that कि इतना डिसिप्लिन से अगर आप इतना पैसा लगाओ और इतना बन जाता है तो फिर हमारे चारों तरफ तो मिलियनियर्स होने चाहिए. ऐसा क्यों नहीं है? क्यों इतनी, अगर हम जब इस कंपाउंडिंग के फॉर्मूले को जानते हैं तो ऐसी क्या बात है? डिसिप्लिन. उन्होंने शुरुआत में ही बोला था कि आपको डिसिप्लिन कैरी करना पड़ेगा. द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट पीपल स्टॉप इन्वेस्टिंग आफ्टर अ टाइम. वो रुक जाते हैं. यस मैम.
We have, when I was listening to that presentation, we have many of our alumni who have followed this, 10-year, 15-year past, and they have told us very proudly, my funds are so much, I don't want to tell the name of the alumni or the amount. It's running into crores. 10-year-old alumni, for you, to motivate all of you. They started with their first paycheck and they reached 3 crores, and so we have many alumni. When they come back, they share this with us, yes, because they learned compounding nicely from campus.
So again, that is very important. If you want to do something, whether it's your personal life, whether it's money or something else, discipline is very important. And now you understand better कि वो आप हर महीने 5,000 रुपए डालें और फिर उसमें 1,000 प्लस कर दें तो वो कितना बड़ा अमाउंट बन जाता है. नाउ कमिंग टू द क्लोजिंग ऑफ दिस सेशन, अगेन मैं वही बात पूछूंगा कि कोई एक चीज़ देखिए, बहुत बच्चे हैं, ये बैच जाएगा, इसका अगला बैच आएगा, एंड इट्स कीप्स गोइंग ऑन. लेकिन वो कोई एक बात जो आपको लगती है जब आप स्टूडेंट्स को देखते हैं कि अगर ये लोग इस चीज़ को करें या ये इस चीज़ को फॉलो करें तो दे बिकम मोर सक्सेसफुल इन देयर लाइफ इन ऑल द एस्पेक्ट. आगे चल के फैमिलीज होंगी, रिलेशनशिप्स होंगे, सभी जगह जिस हैप्पीनेस और टू बिकम रिच की हम बात कर रहे थे, वो कोई एक चीज़ जो आपके हिसाब से, क्योंकि आपके भी जीवन के अभी तक के अनुभव हैं, उस अनुभव के आधार पे एंड प्लस योर टीचिंग एक्सपीरियंस, व्हाट वन थिंग यू वांट टू टेल दिस पीपल, दिस किड्स? Starting with you, Dr. Krishna.
Yeah, well, I think one of the points that other speaker made, be fearless, very important. But if you want to make mistakes now, right? Don't. One is you can make mistakes because the world is okay to take those mistakes, but you can't repeat a mistake, right? You have to be bold. You have to make mistakes, but it is okay. Mistakes is you have to take risk, right, without actually worrying about the outcome. So that is something that I would say.
No, it's very important. Until and unless you make the mistakes, आप नहीं सीख पाएंगे. और हाँ, एक और important बात कि उसी mistake को दोबारा ना दोहराना, this is much more important. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to tell 2 points. One is to be very aware of our purpose. The speakers also mentioned about, passion, follow your passions. But sometimes we don't know what is our passion yet. Like I can tell, as we grow, we discover ourselves. That self-awareness. What is that I'm really competent at? That we don't know. We are discovering. We are discovering ourselves throughout our journey. So please keep on discovering. Be more self-aware so that you know what is your passion. If I ask you, I'm sure 90% of you wouldn't be able to tell me what is my passion, because we are discovering. Right? And there are many scientific ways of discovering our passion. I'm really grateful to this institution. I completed 8 years here. We got multiple training, multiple psychometric programs each year for us to help ourselves to get, and we have excellent feedback system. This has helped me a lot to understand myself, to get what am I good at? And then that process helped me to discover my passion as well. So continue to discover your passion, your awareness about what am I really, and then have that purpose in life. Once you are able to discover that, then you will be very successful in life. So keep that discovery on and, purpose, identify the purpose.
I think Marina ma'am talked about passion. For this generation especially, I would say have compassion for yourself. No, passion is important, but have compassion for yourself, because you are a generation. No, the reason is this is a generation that thrives on putting an Instagram and the likes given by others. If you don't get that like, you feel you're depressed, you're judging yourself by others' reactions. I think you need to have that self-compassion and that self-faith. I think that if students have, I think their competence is not questioned, their ability is unquestionable, but I think what will differentiate is how do we talked of resilience, discipline, everything. I think that will sustain if you have self-compassion for yourself, which Krishna has said, you make a mistake, forgive yourself. Unless it's intentional, I think as long as unintentional, forgive yourself for the mistake that you did and you move on. It's like a pencil, writing a pencil erase with a rubber, right? You move on, you keep writing, but you don't stop writing. That's very, very important. The second is faith in oneself, that I'm good at what I do. Unless we talked of 10,000 hours or 20,000 hours. If you're really putting that effort, you need to know that you are good. You're really good. There's no need to doubt yourself. So self-faith and self-compassion is where I would say that we will suggest to the students.
No, बिल्कुल सही बात है. Compassion and और आपने वो जो कहा कि self-belief, self-faith बहुत important है. अभी कंचन ने जिक्र किया वो पत्ते वाली कहानी का, तो कल हमारा एक और conversation हो रहा था जब हम आ रहे थे यहाँ बेंगलोर, वो भी मैं आपके साथ share करना चाहूँगा. वो इसी self-belief की है. तो long back अमिताभ बच्चन, you know all, उनके फादर को आप जानते हैं? How many of you? Few of them. हरिवंश राय बच्चन, he is a great poet of his time. तो एक बार अमिताभ जब दून स्कूल में थे और उन्हें कुछ परफॉर्म करना था, कुछ प्ले वगैरह, और वो बीमार पड़ गए, नहीं कर पाए, तो बहुत उदास थे, बहुत निराश थे. सो हरिवंश वेंट टू हिम एंड आस्क्ड क्या हुआ, तो उन्होंने कहा कि मैं परफॉर्म करना चाहता था लेकिन बीमार हो गया, ये हो गया. तब उन्होंने एक बहुत फेमस कोट कहा था, मन का हुआ तो अच्छा और मन का ना हुआ तो और भी अच्छा. बाय दैट ही इज सेइंग कि इट्स फाइन, नहीं हो पाया अभी, कोई बात नहीं, यू थिंक एज इट्स गॉड्स विल. क्यों? क्योंकि तुम्हारे लिए कुछ और अच्छी डेस्टिनी रखी हुई है. आज आपको लग रहा है कि आपसे नहीं हो पाया, आप नहीं कर पाए, कोई बात नहीं, निराश होने की जरूरत नहीं है. मन का नहीं हुआ तो कोई बात नहीं, और हो गया तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, लेकिन आप ये मानिए कि जब नहीं हो रहा है तो ये ईश्वर की इच्छा है, और अगर ऐसा है इसका मतलब है आगे आपके लिए कुछ और अच्छा होना बाकी है. तो सेल्फ बिलीफ इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. लाइफ में अप और डाउन्स आएंगे ही, और उसी के लिए हमारे गुरुजन हैं जो हमें ये सिखाते हैं कि आप खुद में विश्वास रखें. इन्होंने आपको जो पढ़ाया है वो कभी व्यर्थ नहीं होगा, वो इट्स डिग्री नहीं है, वो लाइफ टाइम लेसन्स हैं. तो उन्हें याद रखिए, और कभी फेलियर आए लाइफ में या कभी कोई ऐसा निराशा का पल आए, जस्ट थिंक अबाउट दैट, और आप उसको थ्रू कर जाएंगे, और आगे शायद बहुत गोल्डन फ्यूचर आप सबके लिए. सो थैंक यू वेरी मच, और आप तीनों को भी बहुत धन्यवाद.
थैंक यू.
Thank you, Professor, for those insightful and grounded thoughts on what true growth really means. विपिन जी, आपने मेरी जो क्लोजिंग लाइन थी उसको छीन लिया है. प्लेसमेंट किस किस की हो गई? मतलब मेजॉरिटी की नहीं हुई? ओके, जस्ट स्टार्टेड. लेकिन काफ़ी सारे बच्चों को मिल गई, और काफ़ी सारे बच्चे अभी इसी स्ट्रेस में होंगे कि इनको मिल गई और हमें नहीं मिली, राइट? तो इसी के लिए मैंने जो लाइन सोची थी वो यही थी कि मन का हो तो अच्छा और ना हो तो और अच्छा, क्योंकि अभी नहीं हुआ लेकिन हो जाएगा, और जो होगा वो आपके लिए बेस्ट होगा. इसी के साथ हम आज के UTI म्यूचुअल फंड इन पार्टनरशिप विद CNBC आवाज प्रेजेंट सेशन के एंड पर आ गए हैं. होप यू लाइक्ड इट. इसी के साथ बिग थैंक यू टू ऑल द स्पीकर, ऑडियंस और हमारे पार्टनर UTI म्यूचुअल फंड को, जिनके सपोर्ट से ये इवेंट जो है वो इतना ज़्यादा इंस्पायरिंग और साथ ही साथ मीनिंगफुल बना है. सो लेट्स कीप डिस्कवरिंग, ड्राइविंग एंड डिलीवरिंग, नॉट जस्ट फॉर सक्सेस बट ग्रोथ दैट ट्रूली लास्ट. इसके साथ ही साथ स्ट्रेस की भी यहाँ पे बात चल रही थी. काफ़ी ज़्यादा स्ट्रेस होता है क्या? क्या एग्जाम का है, किस चीज़ का है? मत लो, आगे आने वाला है क्योंकि. इसी के साथ थैंक यू ऑल एंड हैव अ वंडरफुल इवनिंग अहेड. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर जॉइनिंग अस टुडे.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार के जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।